Well, I thank you guys all for coming tonight. I was invited to come and speak, and I have been contemplating what to say. And I don't want to have to hold that thing the whole time. You know, I want to start out with speaking about who we really are. It's been mentioned already here tonight, but I want you all to know, and I think you already know, but that first and foremost we are children of God, and that He is our Creator, and that I am amenable to Him and to no other, and that I pledge my allegiance to God and to no other. God created man, and He created this earth, and He gave man dominion over the earth, and the fowls of the air, and the fish of the sea, and the animals, and the plants, and the herbs, and He gave them to man so that he might use, and that he might use to live and to enjoy. He gave it to man for our prosperity and for our pleasure. And He also gave men their agency, the ability to choose for themselves how they should act. This is freedom. Now, we are accountable for our acts, of course, and one day we will answer to God according to our acts. But we are free to choose how we will act. This freedom is important. This freedom is an eternal principle, one that existed before this world did, and one that will exist after we are off of it. And we have rights. We have the right, first and foremost, to the right to our life. For God created us and put us here and gave us our life, and no man has the right to take another man's life. Second of all, our liberty. It's our second most fundamental right. We have the right to be free to choose for ourselves how we will act. And of course, we have the right to pursue happiness in the way we choose. And no man has the right to tell us how to pursue that happiness. And involved in that pursuit of happiness comes the right and control and ownership of property, and how to use that property. Because we have these rights, we establish governments. Governments do not give us our rights. Our rights come from God, and they exist prior to the existence of any government. Governments are created as a servant and a tool of man to protect our rights. Government is to aid the individual in claiming, using, and defending our rights. And government is an effective tool when operating properly. Governments are instituted among men for our benefit. And when they are operating properly to benefit us, they are very good. Many want to call us anti-government. That is not true. We are very in favor of a government that operates properly according to these principles which I just spoke. Government is not supposed to be a controller. They're not supposed to be a dictator. In America, that is one of the miracles of America, is that the people are the sovereign. The sovereign is the one who has the ultimate control and authority. In a kingdom, the king is the sovereign, and what he says goes. The buck stops there. And it doesn't matter what anyone else says. But the miracle in America is that the people are the sovereign. And what the people say goes. And the buck stops there. And our founding fathers created this form of government for a moral and religious people. And they stated that it is wholly inadequate for the governance of any other. In other words, we must be men and women of morality. We must be able and capable of governing ourselves, using that agency that God gave us to choose for ourselves how we will act, and using those acts in righteous ways, to be able to govern ourselves and restrain ourselves from conduct which is not proper. Our freedom should be complete. We should be able to choose for ourselves how we should act in every given situation, to do whatever you want. We were criticized in the court in Oregon at one of the hearings prior to trial, wherein the prosecutor, speaking of my brother Ammon, says, oh, well, he thinks he can do whatever he wants. Well, yeah, absolutely, that's freedom. Okay? Now, there is a limit on freedom. And that limit is that no man has the right to encroach upon the rights of another. First, again, our foremost right is the right to life, and no man has the right to take the life of another, except in defense, to protect your own life. No one has the right to take the liberty of another. Liberty is very, very important. Now, you know, this issue that we have stood up for is mostly about land and land ownership, and the right to use and control and benefit from the land and the resources. Because everything we have comes from the land. Everything. And in there is also the definition of wealth. All wealth comes from the land. Everything you have, from the clothes you wear, to the chair you're sitting on right now, to your phones, to your computers, to this building, to the cars you drove here, to the food you eat, it all derives from the land. And so those who control the land and the resources control the wealth. And if they control that wealth, then they can control everything else. And I believe that God intended for that to be in the hands of individuals and not governments. Okay. The right to use the land and to use these minerals and these different things comes by those who first use it. It's prior appropriation. Our water rights are based upon that principle. And also beneficial use. If you put an element to use and you're there using it, then that begins to establish a right. And if that right is then questioned, then you must stand and defend it. And that defense sometimes is easy, and that defense at other times is difficult, as we well know. But our founding fathers understood these principles. And they understood the principles of what government is supposed to be. And I believe that they created a form of government that was supposed to follow these principles. I believe that they created a central government that was supposed to benefit the states by creating a union of the several states. And I think that is largely forgotten. We just pledged to a flag and said that it's one nation under God. And I would suggest to you that it's not one nation, that we are 50 nations. That yes, we are united for common causes and purposes, and therefore it can be said that we are one nation also. But let's not forget the individuality of the several states, and that each and every state is significant and its own entity. And, you know, there's good evidence of this. I want to speak just briefly about the founding of our country.